In this video, we will try to explore how to work with Azure using GitHub Copilot. So if you just open GitHub Copilot chat and try to ask question related to Azure, then you will get a very generic answer. Like let's say what kind of services we have in Azure. You can see in this case, we are getting a very generic response. This is not related to our subscription or the services what we are looking for. So to work specifically with Azure, GitHub Copilot has introduced an extension for Azure. So as of now, if I go and try to search for Azure extension, then I'm not going to get anything because the Azure extension is not installed in my system. To get started with Azure on GitHub Copilot, first thing what we have to do is install Azure extension, and that we can do it using Visual Studio Code. So here we can go to extension and we can try to look for GitHub Copilot for Azure. We could see like it's coming at the top, and this is in the preview mode. Using this particular extension, you can ask any question related to Azure. You can also pinpoint to your particular subscription so that like whatever the services you are availing under your subscription and whatever the details you need around it, so you can get the answers for those. What we can achieve it using this particular extension, we can ask question related to the resources which we have been utilizing under our subscription. We can diagnose problem with Azure on the services such as Azure API management, cache for Redis, container apps, Azure functions, Azure Kubernetes services, and the app services. Also, we can do the cost management by asking question related to our cost. We can ask question related to the breakdown of the cost month by month or year by year in whatever way you need it. And then we can have the developer support also. Here you can see like Azure can help you to search for application template and will provide instruction like how to initialize, configure, and deploy. So in summary, like we can do all these things. So we can learn about the Azure, the difference between the services, what kind of services are being offered. We can learn about the resource management. We can do the diagnostic and troubleshooting related to the services. We can do the cost management, and also there is a developer support which would help us to build and deploy applications on Azure. To get started with it, first thing what we have to do is install this GitHub Copilot for Azure. So you can just click on this install button, and then this will install GitHub Copilot on your Visual Studio. Now you can see like this has been installed. What I could do now, like I can close this and I can go to my GitHub Copilot, and again I can open chat. And now actually if I go and ask for Azure, then you could see like I'm getting this Azure extension over here, and I can ask question related to Azure. One more thing actually it would ask, and it's not asking as of now because I have already logged in earlier. Like it will ask you to log into your Azure portal so that it can get access to your subscription and provide the details accordingly. So that is also one of the prerequisite. Like you need to have Azure subscription. It could be free tier or it could be some enterprise one, but it will ask you to log into your Azure portal before you can utilize the extension over here. So I know like it is having access to the Azure subscription what I'm utilizing as of now. So first thing what I can ask, what are the resources I am utilizing? You can see like it's trying to gather the information, and it is saying like no resources have been found in your subscription, which is true. I haven't created any of the resources as of now. I can also ask, okay, what are the different subscription I'm utilizing? And you can see it's giving me my subscription ID, current state, and the subscription name. There are so many things you can do with it. If you just want to get started with this, like what kind of prompt you have to pass and where it can help, then we do have a guide over here. I will just put it in the description so that you can get started with Azure. And there are a lot of prompts that you can pass it to it to give you the details about your services in the project. If you have certain question about your code and you want to improve it, then you can also ask certain questions around it. Like suppose if you are using app service and you want to use the container app instead of Azure app services, then you can ask the difference, and you can also ask it to update the code accordingly. So here you can ask like add a Cosmos DB to my project, the service URL should be bing.com. So it can make like certain changes if you have the base code and you want to improve it on top of it. Also it can help you in the architecture of your particular application. So you can generally ask like how can I create a highly available architecture in Azure, explain the Azure well architect framework. All this question also you can ask it. And if you are a developer, it can also help you to understand more about the containerization, web and application hosting, because you can ask question about like which service is best for hosting a scalable web application, which service should I use to create a website. So even if you are new to Azure and if you are using this particular extension for GitHub Copilot, you can get started with very quickly because it will help you to get more understanding about Azure, and it will also going to help you to build a scalable solution solution based on your requirement. We can take like some of the prompts from here. So I can take this architecture prompt and I can just go ahead and try to ask same question, and we'll see like what response we get. And you can see like it has referred certain links on the docs. Then actually it is suggesting few points over here, and it is also recommending us to go to this particular link. And then there are some additional resources also to explore. You could see some follow-up questions also. Can you provide an example of highly available architecture in Azure? What services in Azure support high availability? What are the best practices for ensuring high availability on Azure? So these are the things, like we do not have to go anywhere else. We can get that information here as well in the chat box only. So if I click on this, can you provide an example of highly available architecture in Azure? Then you could see the details what I'm going to get and the services what it has for high availability. So this is how actually we can get more understanding around Azure by asking questions. From the developer perspective, we are going to try build a very simple application, and we will explore how this particular extension is going to help us. So I'm just going to ask like write a code to retrieve key vault values in Python. So here you could see I'm getting a response now, and it has just given a code altogether. What I could do is I can just put it into a file, and this has put this code into a file. I can just save it and I can just name it demo. And now we do have this file created with the code which is being generated using Copilot. Okay, so we have got like this auto-generated code from GitHub Copilot. Now we have to set it up few things before actually this code could be functional. We have already covered in one of our earlier videos, so I will put that link in the description so that you can get to know like how to set it up everything and how to make this code functional. In this case, the focus is more about how to use this particular extension. If you want to get some help from this particular extension, like how to set up a key vault, then we can definitely ask over here as well, and it can give you several options. So let me just ask like how to set up key vault on Azure. So it has gone over all these links. So there are 5 references, and after that actually it is giving you options like how to create a key vault. There is a Azure portal option it is providing, and then you have to grant access to your key vault. So it has provided all the steps which you need to follow to make this code functional. That details also you can get it from here. If you don't want to use the Azure portal, if you want to use the Azure CLI, then you can also ask so how to set up key vault using Azure CLI. As you can see, it is also giving you all this option, and it also giving you this particular icon. Using this you can just insert all this command directly into portal. So you could see like as soon as I have clicked on this, it has just inserted new 10 minutes. So I can just go ahead and run this, and it will execute all those commands. So this would help you to provide you the details around the services which you are utilizing, how you can access it, how you can set it up. All those things you can get to know from this particular extension only. Once this code is functional and running on your local, you can also ask few more things. So you could see like it's pointing to this demo.py file. So it's looking at this demo.py file. If you have any more question around this particular code or something, then you can just ask it and it will help you to answer it. Like one question I can ask, instead of using the default Azure credentials, I need to use the client secret credentials. So it can update the code for that as well. So certain updates also we can do it using this particular extension. One more thing, what I'm more interested to know, like how I can deploy this particular code on Azure. I can just ask like how to deploy this on Azure. And here it's giving me an option like, okay, you can use Azure App Services. Below are the steps to achieve this. So we have to create a resource scope, we have to create an app service plan, and then we have to create a web app. And at the last, we have to deploy the application. And to deploy the application, it is providing several commands. Like we have to set up remote Azure repository. We have put the code to remote a repository. Then we have to configure the Azure key vault references in Azure App Services. Once you start doing all these steps, okay, there could be some certain problems that you may encounter. So if you're getting like any specific error, you can just come on this chat, you can ask it, which should help you to diagnose the problem. So suppose like if you're getting some issue, then you can just run this diagnose and then pass your problem, like whatever you are encountering, and then it will help you to diagnose the problem as well. Let me just ask, like if I do not want to use the Azure App Service, then what are my alternate options? So I can ask the alternate options for the deployment. And then you could see like, okay, it is giving all these options where it is saying, okay, you can deploy it using Azure Function, AKS, Azure Container Instance, Azure Container Apps, Azure Batch. I just want to know like how to deploy it using Azure Container App. Then I can just ask it how to deploy it using Azure Container Apps. And then you could see like it is saying, okay, we have to create a Docker file, and we can just create it from here itself. So it has, given all the commands which we have to run. We can create a Docker file, then we can push the Docker image to Azure Container Registry. We have to just replace the ACR name, resource group, and image name, and then we have to create an Azure Container app. The commands are already over here. Create the container app environment, and then we can access the container app, saying like the above command returns a fully qualified domain name that can be used to access your application. So this is making it very easy, as we just have to go ahead, and run this command, and we just test it out. That's where this particular Azure extension is going to be very helpful if you are working with Azure, and if you want to know more about the Azure, or probably refine your code or diagnose some problems. So you can go ahead and install it and play around with it. It will definitely help you in your day-to-day work. That's all what we have in this video. Thank you for watching.